Hi, welcome to this week's drasha, again given on Erev Shabbos here at the shul, especially for Shabbos Hagodol, especially for this Shabbos, which is going to be a Shabbaton at home. I hope you've all received your packs via email, printed out the bits and pieces that you need for Shabbos, and I hope you watch this before Shabbos, and it gives you an idea and an inspiration for Shabbos as well. In this week's Sedra, right at the beginning of the Sedra, we read about something called the Terumas Hadeshen. The Terumas Hadeshen was where the Kohen, the first thing he did in the morning, every single morning, at night, you had the offerings that burned all night long. There was a Kohen that came to the top of the altar in the morning. He then took a special shovel, shoveled out some of the ashes, brought it back down, and dropped it, v'samo eitza mizbeach, put it on the side of the altar. What's the idea behind this Terumas Hadeshen? And more importantly, is there something important we can learn also from this Terumas Hadeshen for our lives, and specifically now as we are going through the isolation and Pesach and everything else that comes with it? So Rav Shamshafal Hirsch, in his Sefer on Chumash, gives a beautiful idea that I'd like to expound upon and I'd like to share with you today. And Rav Hirsch says the following: the Terumas Hadeshen, the taking off of this little bit of ash from the altar, is not the beginning of the next day, but rather it is the conclusion, it's the completion of everything that came before it. You go up, the Kohen goes up onto the altar, he takes some of that ashes and then he puts it down eitzel hamizbeach, near the Mizbeach, on the eastern side of the Mizbeach. And Rav Hirsch says it's interesting to note that that's actually the side that when somebody was coming into the Beis HaMikdash, when somebody was coming into the Mishkan or to the tabernacle or the temple to see and to bring an offering, that will be the side of the Mizbeach, that will be the side of the altar that he would see. And as he walked in, he would see that deshen, he would see that ash. And what's the significance of somebody who's coming in seeing the ashes? And I will read to you his words. This has been translated from the German, and it's very poetic and it's very beautiful, and I'd like to read to you the following. The ashes are placed b'mizrach, the side of the entrance for the people, the side that represents the nation. The ashes remind the nation at the transition to the avoda, the service of the day that is about to begin, that the new day does not bring new tasks. For the task that is incumbent upon us today is the same task that was incumbent upon us yesterday. The most recent Jewish grandchild stands in the place where his first ancestors already stood. And each new day adds its contribution to the fulfillment of the one task assigned to all generations of the house of Israel. Each day receives its mission from the hand of the previous day. What Rav Hirsch is telling us is the following. You might think that today is a new day. You might think today starts something entirely different, and today cannot be connected to yesterday and it starts again. And he says the Terumas Hadeshen really teaches us that today is just a continuation of what came before it. It's a continuation of yesterday, and yesterday is a continuation of the day before that. The task remains the same. Our job remains the same. And what God wants from us, to be a holy people and a light unto the nation, remains the same throughout and the whole time. And therefore, says Rav Hirsch, every morning we had the Terumas Hadeshen. Every morning we had this ash that was put down on the right next to the altar, for everybody to come in and to realize that today is not something new. Today might be a new day, but the job that's upon me is the job that has been upon me from the day before and the day before that. And I think this is an important lesson for us, for all of us now, as we come up to Corona and as we come up to Pesach. Looking at the coronavirus and looking at Pesach and thinking to ourselves, this Pesach is going to be so different. What is our job this year on Pesach? What do we need to do? Does it change? Is it different? What is our job in general? We were supposed to go out, now we're not supposed to go out. We were able to do these things and now we're not able to do them. What are we really supposed to be doing? God, what do you want from us? And the answer, says Rav Hirsch, really the answer is the same that it's always been. The answer is to be doing God's will, to be a good people and a light unto the nations. And depending on what's going on in the background, that's just the specifics, that's just the details. So we were going to have Seder one way, and now we're going to have Seder a different way. But we've not changed the actual job description. Of course we still have to have a Seder. We were going to celebrate it one way, and now we celebrate it maybe on our own. Why? Because our job is to do that what God wants from us. And God wants us to be safe, and God wants us to be healthy. And if that means that we cannot have the Seder together with our children or grandchildren, as sad as it is, and as hurtful as it is still the fulfillment of the same thing that we fulfilled last year. Last year we did God's will, and this year we do God's will. It's no different. There's no change really going on over here. It's all the same. And the same is true for the goodness that we do to other people. The same is true with so many other things. We are not really being expected to do something brand new here. Our job has remained exactly the same. It's just the specifics are slightly different. So that's what we need to do. Think about what Pesach looked like in previous years, and what would you like Pesach to look like this year? And how can you make sure that your Pesach this year will look the way you want it to look? And prepare the way you want to prepare for it. But realize that your job and what you're doing this year Pesach is the same that generations before us have done for Pesach. Just the details are slightly different. And if you take that upon yourself and you have that way of looking at things, and you have that attitude and that outlook, you'll see Pesach will be just as happy and as joyful as it was last year and the year before. And together we will celebrate this Pesach with simcha, with happiness, and with a great feeling of it being the Yom Tov that it's supposed to be. Wishing you all a very good Shabbos.